Kale had always believed he was ordinary. He lived on the outskirts of human space, working as a salvage technician. His days were filled with dust, metal, and the hum of machinery as he repaired broken ships, extracted usable parts, and made a living far from the core worlds. He liked the simplicity of it. Life had rules here, nothing magical, nothing beyond understanding. Until the day he woke up with a seal on his chest. It had started as a dull ache. Kale noticed a faint warmth under his skin, a pressure that seemed to hum in rhythm with his heartbeat. At first, he thought it was fatigue from long hours in zero-gravity chambers. But when he looked in the cracked reflection of a ship's metal panel, he saw it. The mark glowed faintly, a swirling pattern etched into his chest, almost like veins of silver light. It pulsed with life, reacting to him as though it had its own consciousness. He pressed his fingers against it. The glow flared briefly, burning a path across his palm before fading. Kale stumbled back, heart racing. What is this?" he whispered to himself. He tried to shake it off, telling himself it was an alien infection or a reaction to the radiation in deep space. But even as he worked, moving through corridors of a salvage yard filled with derelict ships, he felt energy thrumming in his veins, sharper reflexes, a heightening of senses that made his usual tasks feel almost effortless. Kale kept his chest covered, wearing the heavy jumpsuit he used for salvage operations. He didn't know where it came from or why it was there, and he didn't know how long it would stay. Word of the seal did not stay hidden for long. In human space, news traveled slower than light, but there were always watchers. Sensors, informants, merchants with ears everywhere. By the time Kale returned to the small settlement near the salvage yard, a report had already reached the ears of a name he had only heard of in whispered conversations. The queen of the Zithurian Empire, Aurelia. Humans considered her alien, mysterious, and untouchable. The Zithurians were a race that believed humans were primitive, barely capable of surviving in space without their ships and technology. For her to know his name, for her to be curious about him, it was frightening. A message arrived by courier, a sleek drone carrying a single note, report to the palace. Immediate. There was no signature, only a stamp he recognized from the Zithurian royal seal. Kale's stomach tightened. Humans were rarely invited to Zithurian palaces unless they were prisoners or experiments. He prepared for the journey, packing minimal tools and leaving instructions with his friends at the salvage yard. He did not expect to return. The palace was enormous. Its towers pierced the clouds of a pale blue planet, shimmering with a metallic glow unlike any human city. Kale stepped off the transport shuttle, his chest tight beneath the jumpsuit. Guards, tall and armored, flanked the entrance. Their eyes glinted with suspicion, studying every movement. They let him pass with a brief glance, as though their curiosity outweighed their distrust. Inside, the corridors were grand, made of materials Kale had never seen before. Light refracted through crystal-like panels, creating a dance of colors across the walls. He felt the seal react, warm pulses traveling through him, guiding him as if the palace itself acknowledged its presence. He was led into a large chamber. At its center sat Queen Aurelia. She was taller than any human, her posture regal, her presence commanding. Her skin had a faint luminescent quality, and her eyes, sharp and golden, seemed to see right through him. Kale froze. He had expected fear, but this was scrutiny. She did not speak at first. She simply studied him, and he could feel the weight of her gaze pressing against him like gravity. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was calm, deliberate, yet carried an undeniable power. "This seal, it cannot belong to a human." Kale's jaw dropped. I don't know what you mean," he stammered. "I just woke up like this, I don't even know how it got there." Aurelia's expression did not change. She rose from her throne with fluid grace, her eyes never leaving him. "Do you feel it?" she asked. "The energy coursing through you?" Kale nodded, swallowing hard. "Yes, it's not normal. I don't know how to explain it." A whisper passed among the advisors at the side of the room. Kale did not understand their language, but the tension was clear. Some bowed, others shifted nervously. He realized this was not merely a test, it was a question of life or death. Aurelia circled him slowly. Every step she took seemed purposeful, like a predator assessing its prey, though not hostile. Kale felt the energy in his chest react to her presence, glowing brighter, warming, almost vibrating. "Legends speak of humans touching the stars with their minds," she said, "but never with power like this. It is impossible." Kale felt a chill. Legends. He had never heard of anything like that in human history books. He was just a salvage technician, not a hero or a warrior. I don't know anything about legends," he said softly. I woke up like this." Aurelia's gaze softened slightly, but only slightly. "Perhaps you are more than what you appear." She paused, studying him for a long moment. "Perhaps you are the first of your kind to possess such strength." That statement made Kale uneasy. First of his kind, was he a weapon, a miracle, a curse? The Queen motioned to a nearby platform. "We will test you." Kale followed, though every instinct screamed caution. The platform emitted a soft hum as he stepped onto it. The seal on his chest flared, bright as the noon sun. Energy seemed to respond to the machine, feeding into its sensors. Kale flinched as sparks danced around the edges of the platform. "Control yourself," Aurelia instructed. "Let the seal show its nature, not your fear." Kale took a deep breath. He focused, trying to calm the strange power to understand it rather than fight it. Slowly, the energy became stable. He could feel it listening to him, bending to his will, a reflection of his own thoughts. A test followed. Objects around him moved, lifted by the power of the seal. Lights flickered, machinery hummed, and Kale realized that he could sense things before they happened. A sudden drop of a tool, the motion of the guards, even the subtle pulse of machinery beneath the floor. The energy was not only raw power, it was awareness. Aurelia observed silently, her expression unreadable. She finally spoke again. "It is stronger than any Zethurian child, far stronger than many adults in my empire. You are an anomaly." Anomaly, Kale swallowed. That word made him feel small and enormous at the same time. He was unique, but it also meant danger. For him, for everyone. After the demonstration, he was escorted to a smaller chamber. Aurelia remained distant but present, speaking occasionally. She questioned him about his life, his beliefs, his family. Kale answered honestly, feeling the weight of every word. Every detail mattered. She was trying to understand if he was truly human or something else disguised in human form. Days passed. Kale learned more about Zethurian culture than he could have imagined. He saw the advanced technology, the hierarchy, the strict codes of conduct. And throughout it all, the seal pulsed with power, reacting to stress, emotion, and thought. Kale also realized he was not entirely alone. A Zethurian scholar named Lyra showed curiosity about him. She asked questions in private, gently, carefully, as if testing whether he could be trusted. Kale found her presence comforting. She did not see him as a threat, or at least she tried not to. One night, Kale sat alone in his quarters, staring at the seal in a reflective panel. The energy pulsed, almost like a heartbeat. He could feel something stirring within him. It was not just power, it was a message, faint and cryptic, urging him to rise, to learn, to prepare. He did not know what it meant, but he knew his life had changed forever. He could not go back to being ordinary. Humans had always been underestimated by the universe, but this could be a chance to prove what they were capable of. And somewhere, deep in the shadows of the palace, the queen whispered to herself, almost as if speaking to the universe, "This human, he may be the beginning of something I have never seen before." The part ends with Kale looking out over the city from a high tower. The seal glowed softly against his chest, a reminder that ordinary humans could hold extraordinary power, and that his journey had only just begun. Kale had spent days trying to understand the seal on his chest. It was no ordinary mark, no simple symbol of energy. It pulsed with a rhythm that seemed almost alive, syncing with his heartbeat, reacting to his thoughts, his fears, and his determination. Each time he concentrated, the power responded. When he grew anxious, it flared uncontrollably, and when he focused, it calmed. The more he experimented, the more he realized that it was not only a source of immense strength, but also a key to understanding the universe in ways humans had never imagined. The palace was quiet that morning. Guards moved in silent patrols, and the hum of advanced machinery echoed through the hallways. Kale stood by a large window, watching the city below. Towers of polished metal reflected the sunlight in dazzling patterns. Airships floated gracefully between them, leaving trails of shimmering energy behind. For all its beauty, there was an underlying tension in the city. The Zethurians were proud, powerful, and often ruthless. Kale felt their eyes on him constantly, judging him, wondering if a human could truly be trusted with such power. Lyra appeared beside him without a sound. Her presence was comforting. Unlike most Zethurians, she did not exude authority or command, but rather curiosity and careful intelligence. "Kale," she said softly. "The seal reacts to emotion as much as thought. You must learn to control it or it will control you." Kale nodded, rubbing the glowing mark. "I try, I really do, but it feels like it has a mind of its own sometimes." Lyra studied him, her golden eyes thoughtful. "That is because it does. The seal is not just energy. It is a fragment of an ancient force older than your kind. Humans have never been connected to it. That is why the Queen is both fascinated and afraid." Kale's heart skipped. "Older than humans, what does that mean?" "It means," Lyra replied carefully, "that this power has never been given to a human before, and some believe it should never be." Kale swallowed hard. He had always known humans were underestimated in the galaxy, but now he realized how deep the prejudice ran. Zithurians, like the Queen, believed humans could not possess true cosmic power. And yet here he was, living proof that they could. The next day, Kale was brought before Queen Aurelia again. She had summoned her council, a group of advisors, generals, and scholars who had been watching him closely. The room was enormous, filled with devices that seemed to measure and record every heartbeat, every movement, every flicker of energy from the seal. Kale stepped onto a platform in the center of the chamber, feeling the hum of the machinery beneath his feet. Aurelia's voice rang clear. "Kale, today you will demonstrate not only your strength but your judgment. Power without control is dangerous and the universe does not forgive mistakes." Kale nodded, trying to ignore the tension. He focused on the seal. He could feel it responding to his attention, vibrating softly. He extended his hands toward a set of floating spheres. They hovered midair, shimmering with light, and then slowly, at his mental command, they began to spin, orbiting him like moons. A murmur ran through the council. Some Zithurians whispered in awe, others in fear. Kale noticed that the generals were uneasy. The seal's energy was unpredictable, but Kale learned quickly. By the end of the session, he could manipulate multiple objects, sense the presence of hidden machinery, and even anticipate small movements from the guards. The seal amplified his awareness, his instincts, and his reflexes. After the demonstration, Lyra approached him again. "You are improving rapidly," she said, "but there are dangers you do not yet see. The Queen's court is not united. Some wish to use you as a weapon, others fear you as a threat. Both can be deadly." Kale frowned. "I thought I was here to learn, not to fight." Lyra shook her head. "Learning is survival. You must understand that your human instincts, your courage, your unpredictability are both a gift and a liability here." That evening, Kale returned to his quarters, exhausted. He sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the seal, which now glowed softly in the dim light. It felt warm, almost comforting, but he could sense the pressure building inside it. It wanted action, wanted him to use it. He remembered the visions that had first appeared when the seal awoke. Flickers of distant stars, alien worlds, and conflicts that humans could barely comprehend. He realized that the seal was connected to something larger, something beyond the Queen, beyond the palace, beyond even Zithurian knowledge. It was as though the universe itself was calling him, pushing him toward a destiny he had never imagined. The following days were filled with lessons, both formal and informal. Lyra taught Kale about Zithurian history, technology, and politics. He learned that the empire had expanded across hundreds of systems, ruling with a mixture of advanced science and strict hierarchy. The Zithurians valued strength, strategy, and obedience above all. Humans, with their improvisation and empathy, were seen as unpredictable and dangerous in their own way. Kale also learned that there were factions within the court. Some advisors whispered that humans should be confined, controlled, or eliminated. Others, like Lyra, believed that Kale could be an ally, a bridge between humans and Zithurians. Kale realized that he had to navigate this web carefully. Any wrong move could mean imprisonment or death. One night while training with the seal, Kale sensed movement outside his window. He froze, concentrating. Through the energy, he could feel the presence of another human, not Zithurian. A messenger, sent in secret by a human colony, had come to warn him. They spoke of a rogue faction of Zithurian generals planning to attack human settlements, believing the humans' exposure to the seal could threaten the empire. Kale's pulse quickened. The seal responded immediately, pulsing with energy, almost anxious. He understood now that his journey was no longer just about learning control. It was about action. He had a choice: stay in the palace and be used as a tool, or step into danger to protect his own people. The following day, Kale was summoned once again before Queen Aurelia. She studied him, her golden eyes sharp and piercing. "Kale," she said, "there are whispers of unrest. You are not yet fully aware of the politics in this court. You may be human, but you are not naive." "What will you do if your power is used for destruction?" Kale straightened. "I won't let it be used that way. If the seal's power can protect lives, I will use it, but not to harm innocents." A silence fell over the chamber. Aurelia regarded him carefully, her expression unreadable. Then, almost imperceptibly, she nodded. "You have human morality. It is different, unpredictable, but not without merit." After the council session, Kale and Lyra spoke in private. "You must leave," she said firmly. "The generals will act soon. They see the seal as a weapon to destroy humans. You must stop them before they act." Kale shook his head. "I can't just run. I need to know I can control this power first." Lyra placed a hand on his arm. "Control comes from action. The seal responds to purpose. You will never fully understand it unless you face real danger." Kale looked at her, determination growing. He understood now that this was no longer about learning or survival alone. It was about proving that humans, underestimated and dismissed, could rise to challenges greater than any alien could imagine. Preparations were made quietly. Lyra helped him gather information about the rogue general's plans, mapping out their movements and the strength of their forces. Kale trained relentlessly with the seal, learning to balance raw power with precision. He practiced lifting objects, sensing movement, and manipulating energy without losing control. Each day, he grew stronger and more confident. Finally, the night came. Kale moved through the palace corridors with stealth, guided by the energy of the seal. Guards passed unaware, as if the palace itself allowed him to move undetected. He reached the transport bay, where a small shuttle awaited. Lyra handed him coordinates and a device that would allow communication without alerting the generals. "Be careful," she whispered. "And remember, humans are unpredictable. Use that to your advantage." Kale nodded, gripping the controls. He could feel the seal thrumming, alive with anticipation. This was his first step into the unknown, his first test outside the walls of the palace, and the first time he would confront danger directly. As the shuttle lifted off, leaving the planet's shimmering towers behind, Kale gazed at the stars ahead. The seal on his chest glowed brightly, a beacon of power, hope, and responsibility. He was no longer just a salvage technician. He was something else, something the universe had not expected. And he would prove that humanity, no matter how underestimated, could rise to meet any challenge. The journey ahead was uncertain, full of peril, but Kale felt a quiet confidence. He could feel the seal responding to his resolve. Whatever lay ahead, he would face it not as an ordinary human, but as the first human to wield a power that no one thought possible. And somewhere far behind him, the Queen watched the sensors, her expression unreadable, knowing that the human she had underestimated was now moving toward a destiny that would change the balance of the galaxy forever. Kale gripped the controls of the shuttle tightly, his chest warm with the steady pulse of the seal. It had guided him this far, and he had learned to trust it, not just for strength, but for intuition. The seal seemed to anticipate danger, alerting him before threats even appeared. It was more than power, it was awareness, a connection to something larger than the galaxy itself. Lyra sat beside him, her eyes scanning the holographic map projected above the console. "The rogue general's forces are heavily armed," she said, "but they are overconfident. They think humans cannot challenge Zethurian technology. That is our advantage," Kale nodded. "Overconfidence is dangerous, but we can't underestimate them either. They know about the seal now. They will act aggressively if they sense even a hint of its energy." The shuttle's engines hummed softly as it approached the coordinates of the rogue fleet's base, a hidden station on a barren moon far from the capital. The station's defenses were formidable. Energy shields, automated turrets, and patrol drones constantly sweeping the area. Kale felt the seal pulse strongly, as though reacting to the density of alien energy surrounding him. He exhaled slowly. "It's time," he said. Lyra reached out, her hand brushing his arm. "Remember, Kale, the seal is powerful, but it is not invincible. Use your mind as much as your strength. Humans have an edge they underestimate." Kale's lips curved into a determined smile. That unpredictability, that unique human intuition had carried him through challenges before. It would carry him now. The shuttle descended toward the station under the cover of a meteor storm, which provided natural interference for sensors. Kale guided it skillfully, the seal heightening his reflexes and spatial awareness. He could feel the energy in the station, the hum of its engines, the movement of guards inside. The seal reacted to each pulse, each motion, giving him information beyond what his eyes could see. They landed in a hidden bay, undetected by the station's main sensors. The hatch opened, and Kale stepped onto the cold metal floor, the seal glowing faintly beneath his jumpsuit. Lyra followed, her expression tense but resolute. Around them, the station was quiet, almost eerily so. The generals believed themselves safe, secure behind their shields and automated defenses. They did not anticipate a human wielding a power they could not understand. Kale led the way, moving through corridors lined with advanced technology. He sensed the presence of guards before they appeared, dodging patrols and disabling security systems with precise bursts of energy from the seal. Each action was deliberate, conserving power but ensuring effectiveness. Humans, unlike Zethurians, could improvise, adapt, and act unpredictably. The seal amplified this, turning his instincts into an almost superhuman advantage. Finally, they reached the central command chamber. Through reinforced glass, Kale could see the rogue generals gathered around a holographic map, discussing strategies for their attack on human colonies. They were confident, arrogant, unaware of the threat standing just outside their door. Kale stepped forward, and the seal flared brightly. The glass shattered without a sound, energy radiating in a controlled pulse that disabled electronic devices and left the generals frozen in shock. They turned to see him standing there, calm, composed, glowing faintly with the seal's energy. "Humans cannot wield power like this," one of the generals sneered, though his voice wavered. Kale's gaze was steady. "I am human," he said simply. "And you will not harm innocents today." The generals activated energy rifles, firing in rapid succession. Kale moved with speed and precision beyond human capacity, the seal guiding his reflexes. He deflected blasts with energy shields, absorbed impacts, and countered with focused bursts that disabled weapons without lethal force. Lyra coordinated from the rear, guiding him and providing real-time information on their positions. The battle escalated. Drones swarmed, but Kale's awareness allowed him to anticipate every move. He leapt, spun, and struck with precision, using the seal to amplify his strength and protect his allies. Guards were incapacitated, machinery was disabled, yet no one was killed unnecessarily. Every action reflected human ingenuity, strategy, and compassion, a stark contrast to the generals' rigid, aggressive tactics. In the center of the chamber, the lead general activated the station's ultimate weapon, a massive energy cannon designed to drain the seal's power and convert it into destructive energy. Kale felt the seal react violently, a surge of energy threatening to overwhelm him. He closed his eyes, focusing not on fear but on control. The seal responded, a connection forming between his will and the ancient energy coursing through him. With deliberate concentration, Kale channeled the energy. The cannon fired, and the blast collided with the seal. Instead of being consumed, the energy was absorbed, amplified, and redirected in a controlled wave that neutralized the weapon. The chamber trembled, machinery sparking, but Kale stood firm, the seal glowing brighter than ever. The generals stared, mouths open, unable to comprehend what they were witnessing. The human they had dismissed as weak, inferior, and primitive had not only survived their attack, but had mastered an alien power beyond their understanding. Kale approached the lead general. "You underestimated humans," he said. "We survive, we adapt, we rise when faced with impossible odds." The general, shaken and defeated, fell silent. The remaining officers quickly surrendered, realizing that resistance was futile. Kale deactivated the seal's energy pulse, allowing the room to return to normal. The threat had been neutralized without unnecessary casualties, a testament to both his control and humanity's ingenuity. Lyra stepped forward, placing a hand on Kale's shoulder. "You did it," she said softly. "You've proven something no Zethurian believed possible." Kale exhaled, the weight of the battle finally settling. "I just did what I had to," he replied. "The seal helped, but it's not just power, it's choice. And humans make choices that aliens don't always understand." As they left the station, Kale felt the seal pulse with a gentle warmth, almost as if acknowledging his actions. It was no longer just a source of power. It was a partner, a guide, and a responsibility. He had learned to control it, to use it wisely, and to embody the very qualities that made humans unique: courage, adaptability, empathy, and ingenuity. When they returned to the Queen's palace, Kale was summoned once more before Aurelia. She observed him silently at first, her golden eyes studying every detail. Then, for the first time, a faint smile touched her lips. "You have done what I did not think possible," she said. "Not only have you controlled the seal, but you have also used it with wisdom and restraint. You have proven that power does not belong solely to strength, but to judgment and morality." Kale bowed slightly. "I did what I had to. Not for glory, not for recognition, but to protect those who cannot defend themselves." Aurelia regarded him, her expression thoughtful. "Perhaps humanity is not as weak as we believed. Perhaps humans are capable of more than we ever imagined." The palace fell silent, the council and advisors watching with a mix of awe and disbelief. The human they had underestimated, the one they had doubted, had not only survived but had risen above expectation. Kale's actions were not only a demonstration of power, but also a statement of human potential, of the indomitable spirit that could challenge even the most advanced civilizations. In the days that followed, Kale worked with Aurelia and her advisors to secure a fragile peace. The rogue generals were imprisoned, their plans foiled, and human colonies were protected from harm. Kale's presence and the seal became a symbol, not of fear, but of hope. Humans, often dismissed as primitive, were now seen as beings of extraordinary potential. Kale continued to train, to learn, and to explore the seal's full capabilities. He knew that the galaxy was vast, and challenges would continue to arise. But he also knew that humans, with their courage, adaptability, and empathy, could meet them head-on. The seal had chosen him, but it was his humanity that truly defined his power. From his quarters, overlooking the city, Kale watched the stars. The glow of the seal beneath his jumpsuit reminded him that his journey was only beginning. He had faced danger, tested his abilities, and proven that humans could rise to challenges beyond imagination. And somewhere in the far reaches of the galaxy, he knew there were more trials ahead, trials that he would meet not with fear, but with determination, wisdom, and the unyielding spirit of humanity. Queen Aurelia, observing from the palace, finally allowed herself a nod of respect. "This human, he carries the future within him," she murmured, "and perhaps it is a future we have underestimated." Kale's journey, the awakening of the seal, and the recognition by the Queen were all proof that humans could surpass expectations. The galaxy had not seen the last of him, and it never would. For even in a universe of powerful aliens and ancient forces, a human, guided by courage and choice, could wield power that no one imagined possible. And so Kale stood as a symbol, not just of strength, but of the potential within every human, to rise, to adapt, and to claim a place among the stars.